Alright. Back, at this point, is it a surprise that I'm back later than I expected to be? Probably not. Things, you know, things keep cropping up, and they will the whole time I have to contend with work. So, as it stands, not ideal. But it also is what it is, objectively. Should have fixed that before I started. There you go. Right. I have this. I have refrained from touching this the last couple of days so that I could do it on stream. So, you know, you're welcome, I guess. Uh, oh no, okay. That seems. Hey, alright. That seems pretty good. Yo, alright, that worked a lot better than I thought it would for some reason. Oh, hang on, having said that, there's the middle bits. Middle bits are gonna be interesting. Come on. Yeah. Okay, actually, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Didn't do as much as I was hoping it would as far as clearing up the remaining crap from this. But it got some. It got some. There are quite a few little, like, holes and bits up in here. You can just about see when the camera decides to focus. Yeah. Like in here, there's a little hole. All along here, there are little holes. So, like, this as a medium for actually casting stuff in, not ideal, really. But not a bad effort. And it kind of gives you an idea of the end scale of things, which actually looks pretty good. Yeah, I ain't mad at that, if I'm honest. As a little experiment, I suppose. It's pretty okay. But it's definitely uneven up here. But it's whatever at this point. There'll be a guard that goes across there, so I'm not that pressed. As long as it's all okay down here, then fine. Cool, alright. Well, I've learned a couple of things from that. One of them being that this isn't super effective for removing the remaining clay and crud. The other being that as a final casting medium, this is not ideal. Because it's objectively just too brittle. Oops. That's fine. All interesting. So I think what I'll do from here is just get a fast cast going, to be honest. Because I'm not going to be able to be here for as long as I usually would today. I need to get into work early to sort some stuff out. I say early like I don't already get there early, but earlier. At least I'm not going to have to faff about slush casting this. And just get straight on with it. Pour a chunk in there. try and get it leveled off. So I reckon... Ouch. There's a stool there. Who needs ankles? Fine. I think that's cleaned up most of this. Yeah, that seems mostly okay. Tire. I need to go spray this with mold release again, and then come back and mess with some chemicals. Really? Quite enjoyed this. I mean, it's missed several bits up here. Oh, no, webcam froze. Thanks. Awesome. Yeah. Missed bits up here, or maybe they were just too brittle and they came away. But down here as well. But it's still kind of cool to have a little something just as a frame of reference. So, as far as it matching up with the template that I drew, actually, that's pretty good. I'm not particularly mad over that. Not bad. It's a little bit whack, but I'll figure it out. At least once there are two halves together, if anything looks particularly off, I can kind of sand it back and faff about before I do my final two-parter. So that's whatever, really. Right, where is my respirator? Because things are about to get interesting. And as I say, I can't be here for that long today, so I kind of just want to crack on, get some stuff done. And then peace out, really. Let me stick this on real quick. Try not to bash me mic. No promises. Sorry for terrible noises. I'm just testing the filters. Okay, that feels pretty on there. I always like to check that, basically, I'll always put my palms over the front bit of the filters and try breathing in to see whether it actually stops me from breathing. Which sounds terrifying, I promise it's fine. Just brief suffocation, just to be sure. you know? So, don't worry about it. It's completely fine. I'm also trying to move the mic slightly further away, so I don't sound, as abrasive. Hopefully. Let me slip some goggles on as well. PPE is important. Even if it seems, fairly innocuous. I am chancing nothing. To reach for my gloves, don't worry about it. Alright. Let's see what I can do here. Fire. I'm going to step outside briefly to spray this with some stuff. And then I'll come back. And mix up some chemicals. And jobs are good. A little bit of plaster left on one of these. Bear with. Where's my, any of these, really? Okay, that should fix that. Keep finding little bits of plaster up in places that are going to matter. But I think, hope, probably the worst of it. Alright, let's assume it is. One of my tiny scissors. One more thing I want to mess with before I go and handle that. Shouldn't be a massive problem, but just in case. Back with this real quick. Just a couple of little bits that I can probably remove from the mold, looking at my cast. Yeah. I'd say this bit can go too. little inconsequential bits and pieces. I'm reluctant to mess with a whole lot more. Okay. I'll save faffing with any of the rest until after I've got a proper fast cast going. So I'm going to spray this, and then, yeah. Right, sprayed. Then, cups, scales, blah blah blah. Now I do expect I'm going to end up making a mess here. So what I'm inclined to do is whack it on the plastic rather than the wood. So at least when I do end up spilling it, doesn't matter a whole bunch. It's not an if, it's a when. Realistically. That's just a fact. Right. Where are my cups? Have one of these. Now, fairly sure this is a 1-to-1. So actually, I may well be able to blank this. Yeah. It's a 1-to-1. Just gonna mix this real quick. Fairly aggressive ASMR. Alright. That's one of them. Let's do the other one. Ooh. In fairness, if it's 1-to-1, I could probably get away with just doing it based on the measurements on the cup. Give that a whack. Why not? Right. Let's do that. They don't pour particularly nicely. That's the only thing. Tends to make it bigger than that. At least I can just pour it and leave it. It's a plus. Alright. Where are my sticks? There are my sticks. You know what would have been smart? If I'd made some sort of like a trench before I cast this. So I could have it kind of overflow and flatten off without it going literally everywhere. That's whatever, I guess. At the minute, still fairly watery. But getting warmer. Just want to make sure it's mixed properly before I commit, that's all. That's the thing, is I don't think it quite sits flat. Where can I leave you? Yeah, here is fine. Trying to think how I could resolve this without messing with the rest of it. I kind of can't. Kind of need that to set first, because I'm at risk of bending it otherwise. So I just kind of have to leave it, I think. This didn't sit flat, but that's because this never had enough on top to sit flat. I just kind of have to wait and see, I guess. Is there anything else I can cast with what I have left? I kind of don't want to waste it. I don't think there's a lot of point in casting anything else. Wonder. No, it's already way too solid, never mind. Right, stop that. I'm gonna try and pour away this lump so that I can at least reuse the cup. Rather the conservative one. I can reuse stuff I'd rather. That looks pretty cool. When they say fast cast, they're not kidding. It does just suddenly go. As I learned last time, the hard way. At least I can say this is considerably less messy than the first time. I just, leave it there for a while, play it safe. I should, in theory, be able to get a couple of these made before I'm obliged to leave. Because I'm going to have to leave about an hour earlier than I usually would. So I've got about an hour and a half before I need to duck out. Then I'm off tomorrow, so realistically that gives me a few options. We'll see. I'm just going to keep trying to clean out this cup. At least it kills time. I'd like to try and see if I can make a fiberglass version of my Eddie sculpt. That'd be an interesting experiment. I dare say I've probably got enough fiberglass matting kicking about. Only trouble with Eddie is he's frigging huge. Definitely not my most practical sculpt. But also, not a lot of what I do is practical. Objectively. I've managed to clean out most of the scarf, actually. Pretty good. At least then I can reuse it. Because I'm kind of sweating over wasting stuff at the minute. I mean, I usually sweat over it, but more so considering I won't have money coming in, particularly for, like, the rest of the year, I expect. So if I can be conservative with stuff, that would be epic. I've got a lot of business admin I need to try and figure out. Bunch of people I need to DM and say, hey, you do this, help me out. Show me where I even begin with all of this. I don't know. A lot of this is pretty far beyond me, to be honest. But it's fine. I think the trouble with me, well, actually, I know the trouble with me, is that if I'm not immediately good at something, I can't even. And this is not something that I can be immediately good at. The whole, professional
cosplayer type shtick. Like, can I make stuff? Yes. Do I know how to promote that? No. Am I proficient in social media? Absolutely not. Do I need to be? God, yes. There are a lot of components to these things. So, yeah. I think Fierce Deity is probably going to be my last big project for a little while. Just as I try and set a load of stuff up. To be honest. Up has been cleaned out. So I can use that again. Hope it didn't sound too horrendous. Nice. Wonder if I can clean some of the crud off of this as well. Probably. Scrape at it with a ruler. Ah, hell yeah. Okay. Nice. I can save the stick too. So that pretty much does it. That's in a pretty good position. Yeah, nice. Alright. I can then use those again. Jolly handy. And I wonder what kind of state this is in. Feels pretty okay. Also feels pretty warm still. I'm inclined to leave it until it is no longer toasty. Or at least no longer that toasty. Just because I don't want to balls it up. So I'll leave it to vibe for now, I guess. And while I'm leaving it, I'll just have a look at this and see, as I reckon, yeah, that feels pretty fine, but I'm gonna leave it anyway. Just want to compare it with this. It's not too bad. That's not too bad. As far as fitting with the original. Okay. So actually, this side ends up being a little bit bigger. Oh, but then so does that side. It's not too bad. It's fairly accurate. Yeah, it's not horrendous. I'm not super mad with that, to be honest. Not mad at all. I need to finish the Squirtle at some point as well. It's just a silly little project, but... How toasty are you? Oh, you're cool enough. Alright, fair enough. You're cool enough. Cooler than it was. Still a little toasty though. So I'm going to continue to leave it for a bit. Now I did have a couple of little bits and pieces I was working on for friends. So I might pass with those while I'm waiting. Mate of mine had 3D printed a Charizard and then attempted to prime it himself and made a massive mess out of it. Don't know how easy it is to tell, but yeah, it's in a bit of a state. So I said I'd have a look at it and try and fix it. So I might do that. I mean, this feels a lot better than it was, but again, I'm kind of dubious because of those middle bits. I don't want to do anything with this too soon. Those middle bits are going to be a massive problem for sure. So I'm inclined to just, you know, fiddle with this instead. That wing feels really nice and smooth, apart from this big growty bit in here, which I'll have to faff with separately, I suppose. So, it is what it is. I really want to demold this, but I know that it's not sensible. So instead, I shall try and focus in on faffing with this little Charizard, because why not? Okay. Let's see. See what I can do with this. It is a real mess. At least this is fairly easy to just stand back again. Once I've sanded the whole thing, I'll prime it again, but in my lovely grey that I use. I'll dust it off over here somewhere with a different brush, the one I've been using for my desk, because I don't really want to be getting dust in the clay. What other brushes have I got? I can use this one. Yeah, that's fine. And I'll just check back in on the fast cast periodically. It's probably completely fine by now, but I'm not risking that. Getting in here is fun. Personally, I would have taken this as a model, split it so that you're printing the wings separate to the body, and then made some sockets, like 3D modeled some sockets, and then attached them later on. He also gave me a Venusaur, and I'd said that's how I would have dealt with the plant. Print it separately, tackle it separately, getting in various gaps. Not easy, to be honest. I'm kind of sort of managing ish. There we go, okay. Takes a lot of angling. That's better. The whole wing is still a disgusting mess, though. Of course it is. How does this feel? Still toasty. Still gonna leave it. How long have I got? About an hour. Okay. About an hour. Fine. So be it. It is what it is. I'll give it another. Let's say I give it until 2:30. Give it until 2:30, and then I will demold the thing because I expect it to be completely fine. But I want to be sure. There's just so many thick layers of primer on this that I'm going to need to take most of it off. That's whatever. I'm not phased. One of those things, he just gave me a bunch. Like, there's no deadline for it. But, you know, since I won't be working in the same building as him anymore. It's gonna be kind of difficult to get stuff to him when I'm done with it. But I suppose it's a good excuse to meet up, so not the end of the world, really. There's so much crud coming off of this, it's unreal. I reckon I can get this inner wing mostly dealt with, to be honest. I think I can see what he was trying to do with the primer. I think there were a couple of areas that have misprinted. It looks like he was trying to build it up to match, which I get, but then you end up with the mess that we have here. Better to just try and file those bits down. This bit will need filling. I can do that separately, that's no biggie. I could use a coarser sandpaper, but I'm reluctant because the wings are thin. And if I go too far, game over. Or at least game complicated. It's just kind of safer if I go slower and more careful with it. Like how I'm bracing the wing with like the base of my palm. Anywhere I'm applying pressure, I'm backing. I don't want to snap anything. Just inconvenient. Right, that is better than it was. I'll be able to see a lot easier once I've stuck a grey primer on top. It's going to be a little bit deceptive Like, this looks bad. It's not. These are just filling gaps. So that's fine. Realistically, it should look patchy. That's the whole purpose. It's meant to be a filler, at least to start with. Yeah, that's much better along there. In here, it's still a little bit scuffed. But it's about half past, so I'm wondering whether I can zoom back out again and mess with the fast cast. Because I probably can. Let's see. These. Oh yeah, that feels totally solid. Right, moment of truth. All of that comes away nicely, which I expected it to. The middle, that has me sweating. Hoping I can just pop everything out. There we go. Alright. Actually, that sits pretty flat. So that's worked quite well. Yes, there's a load of clay and crud up in there. But it's worked. Which means I can just jump straight in and do another one. Really. There are a couple of little imperfections in it. But we'll see how it comes out with another cast. So if I did 100 per last time and I had slightly too much, I'd weigh out 75 this time. I'm hoping I'll have about the right amount. That's the hope. So let me wander off and spray this. Then I'll come back and do that. Alright, sprayed. So, if I'm smart, and I move it over here to begin with, I won't have to pick it up again. I can have a look at this in a second. Yeah, let's say I'm going for about 75 this time. 75 per. Just mix it all up again. So I'm chancing nothing. Alright. Making that about 80. Fine. Fine, I'll just try and do 80 again with the other one. Slightly over, but close enough. Then I have my stick. Move this out of the way. Hoping this time I'm not going to end up wasting any. That's the ideal. I'd rather not. Wipe some of the crud off my fingies. Better. Right. Mix it for a little bit. Might as well. That, I would expect, is sufficient. Then I just focus on that middle. See how much more I can get away with without it overflowing. Right, I'd say that's probably about it, to be honest. And I wanted to experiment with something. Purely out of interest. I'm wondering if I can get away with putting some of that in there. Using it as a filler. Feel like I can. I'll sand it down later. Wool. Yeah, that doesn't waste as much as last time. And then I can faff about cleaning up the cup after the fact as well, which is good. Cool. Clear out the worst of this. Once it's cured, it'll be easier. Bath with the remains. I'll do that in a minute. It's the same for all the bits that are stuck on the stick. That's easy enough to get off once it's cured. So that is also fine. In the meantime, I want to have a little look at this first proper cast. So it sits fairly flat, slightly up at the top, slightly up at the bottom, but fair enough. Nice and flat on here. It goes up slightly at this point, slightly at this point. I'll have to sand it down anyway, but that's no biggie. And obviously, it's caught a lot of clay in here. Why don't I just bring this down? That's easier. So it's got a lot of clay stuck in there, which I'm hoping isn't going to matter a whole bunch. But I'm also thinking, well, maybe I just end up pulling an additional cast out of all of this, just to make sure nothing affects the final. But it's good as a frame of reference. Everything that's like in the very bottom of here doesn't matter, like, that's whatever. But the bits higher up do matter. Wondering how much of it I can kind of pick away at. Because potentially that may end up being a decent way of playing things. Because this, presumably, I can just, yeah. I can scratch away at that. That comes off fine, but it does leave a little gap, which makes sense. But I'm thinking a lot of this might actually just come away without much fuss. Which it kind of does, to be honest. But because of the way that everything had been textured in the original sculpt, I am fairly reluctant to scratch at any of the surfaces that are textured, because that will probably translate in the silicone. The silicone picks up the tiniest details. And I don't really want to have to deal with that. Not if I can help it. So out of interest, let me see if I wipe away at that. Can I see any scratches? Oh yeah, I can, yeah. So I would expect that would translate in the silicon. For things like this, and this little gap, I can get away with because that's already a line. I wouldn't want to do anything along like the flat surfaces. I say flat, like the main sort of surfaces. Just up in a gap, cool. Along those bits, not so cool. Not unless I retexture everything. Then that becomes annoying in itself. I reckon a lot of this is sandable. Yeah, I can see that. Means it'll come through on the final thing. Let me see. I don't want to do anything dramatic because obviously they both need to be pretty much the same. It definitely needs a little bit of faffing done with it. That was always the plan anyway. It's nothing, you know, super crazy. And this bit definitely needs going over. As far as actually neatening up the edges properly, that will have to be done in post because it's not currently symmetrical. Which means that when I marry the two halves, they won't match. Well, I'll have to go over the edges when I have like a joined piece. As you can see from this side, like it's not symmetrical. It definitely isn't. So I'll have to figure that out once I've joined the two halves, and I'll just sand the edges when they're one unit. That's whatever, I guess. But I can basically just neaten it up for now. They're all pretty okay. That's fine. I can scratch away at the worst of these. I suppose objectively, what I could do is end up splitting this in half, casting another couple of halves, and then joining them. Well, no, actually, I can't because you only get one of those. So no, I had to do it like this. I had to do it like this because I can't flip it. It's whatever. I'll just have to mess with it. I'll just leave this for a while. The current fast cast situation. I'll just let it vibe for a bit. Might as well. Just while I'm looking at this, seeing what's upsetting me, which is a surprising amount actually. Now I have a sanding block somewhere. There it is. Now that's too coarse. That's not coarse enough. Nearly. And that seems too coarse. I don't know, maybe I faff with that later on. Maybe I stick with this for now. At least once I've done this bit, I can make the main mold. And then I have something that I can just pump out a whole bunch of glass cast copies from. Yeah, I like fast cast because it sands down really nicely. And it's super easy. Let me pick at some of this. How long have I got? About half an hour. Okay. Realistically, that's half an hour tops. Let me prod this. Okay. Seems pretty good, but again, I'm gonna leave it. I'll leave it for a while. Just to be safe. If I didn't have these to worry about, then I'd just pull it. But I do, so it can be left. Not a big deal. We'll see how the two halves actually. If I lay it on top of this, I can kind of see. Ah, okay. Alright, there's going to be a little bit of faffing to do, but it's not looking horrendous. I'm actually quietly hopeful with this. I think this might work out. Of course, I'm not a fan of the little bits of clay that are still stuck in here. But I think a lot of those can be picked away without a lot of concern. Yeah, I think actually this will be okay. Okay. Yeah, alright. I'm feeling a lot better about all of this. Now that I can kind of see for myself where the process is going, I'm not all too pressed over it. How does this feel? Feels cool enough, I reckon. I reckon I can probably pop this out now. Yeah, even that little piece feels pretty solid, so let's give this a go. These middle bits just make me sweat every time. Ah, that looks nice. Yo, okay. Yeah, that looks really nice. Okay. See, I'm inclined to do another one just because you know, it's harder to see what I'm doing with this one than it is with this one. So I'm inclined to make another one. Once they're together, I'll have to finesse things. And the final width of the thing will be pretty thick. Then as far as prop daggers go, that seems fairly okay. Like I'd expect it to be that sort of thickness for a foam weapon. So I think I'll do another one of those. Because there's just so much clay in this one. Hard to see what I'm doing. Whereas in this one, I can actually see pretty well. Uh, if I'm assuming that this is a test one, let me quickly try taking a sanding block to it. If that ends up fixing a load of my problems, then I won't need to make another fast cast. Right. Dust this off and see what I'm left with. It doesn't actually look too bad. Most of that has been flattened off now, which is good. Looks way better. Wednesday I did something similar along here. Realistically, do I need to make another fast cast? Probably not, but also if it's going to be the final thing, then I'm kind of like, it would be sort of sensible if I did, you know? I don't want to silicon cast it and have the clay make a massive difference, as it might. So I think I'll do one more anyway. I've got another half hour, so I can sand the nice one. This one is still pretty epic. I like it. But this just looks... There's so much less cleanup to do on this. Like, it saves a stupid amount of time if I just roll with that one. So I think I will. So I'm going to clean out the cup again. Because now that everything's cured, I can bend the cup and just kind of peel chunks away. It's just pretty handy. It just flakes off. Then I can use the same cup again. And then I'll just do one last fast cast. And this time I think I'll just do 50 and 50. Because I still had a fair bit left over last time. So, wasn't as much as the first time, but I reckon 50 and 50 will be okay. sake of speed, I will clean out this cup, but I'll use a new one for now, just so I can get another cast in and curing. But I will clean off the stick, because that's fairly quick. Yeah, that's good enough. Basically, as long as it's not going to flake anywhere, that's good enough. Then I'll get a new cup for now. It is what it is. And I'll just do 50 doesn't seem like enough. 60, 60 maybe. I don't know. I think I'll just play it safe. So, do the same as before, move this over here somewhere. I need to spray it first anyway, actually. That would have been fun. Right. I'm going to spray this mold. Come back. Get one more fast cast out of this. Okay. Ooh. Then I will mix the thing. And if I said 60, if I aim for 60, aim for 60, got 70. Fair enough. Realistically, I expected as much. So I'll do the same. Ooh. Jobbed. Wipe the residue as much as I can off the gloves. Then grab my stick. Okay. Give it a swish. Still pretty watery. feel it getting warmer. Just want to make sure it's properly mixed, that's all. I want it to stay pretty watery so that it captures all the detail. It's fairly important. I'll roll with that. Focus these bits as before. Okay, that's pretty much perfect. Hell yeah, you'll love to see it. It's about 70. Noted. Which means when it comes around to the final thing, if I called it 75 and then doubled it, then it depends on the vents as well, so it might be slightly more than that in the end. I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's fine. We'll leave that to do its thing over there. In the meantime, have a look at this. There are some holes in here. I can fill those. Let me just do this again. Ah, that's easier. Okay. Yeah, there's some little holes in here. I'm going to want to fill those eventually. But I should be able to take this. Sand down the top. So it's all pretty level. For the minute, it ain't. And I can assess this and see how much more even that makes it. Let me see. Oh, hell yeah, that's way better. Alright. Huge. So that more or less fixes that as a problem, which is cool. And this was the stuff that wasn't cope when I was saying that I'd fix it in post. Like, sanding stuff down. That's legit. I need to do this on the side. That's gonna be better. Yeah, that's better. To say, I know I'm gonna have to faff with this anyway. I need to get the two halves to be reasonably even. And there's going to be a lot of faffing that comes with that, because they're very uneven. It probably doesn't translate spectacularly well on camera, but a lot of this edge is very uneven. This is why I'm using a sanding block to try and get everything to sit more flush. That then gives a straight edge to work from, rather than going at it with my fingers like I usually would. Like, I know it's on a curve, but the curve is at an angle. The angle is meant to be fairly straight. So if you've got a smaller flat bit that you're sanding with, then you can still cover the curve, but you can flatten off the angle. If that made any sense. In my head it did. Yeah, that's way better. As you can kind of see with a dark background how scuffed all these bits are up here. And that I can fix with just a tiny little bit. If I fold this, I get a reasonably pointed piece. I can go into that gap in there and follow it up here. Okay, so that has gone a bit funky in here. You can just about see there's a ridge. I'll have to mess with that. Probably find that's something that I did when I moved the mold after pouring it. Or did I do that with the first one? I don't remember. I feel like I did that with the first one, actually. So maybe it's just one of those things. Either way, it fixes most of that bit. This bit in here is also a little bit odd. Fine. That sorts a lot of that bit out. And get this bit. That's better. And again, with a dark background, hopefully you can see the difference. And that's the kind of stuff that you can't do with soft clay. You need a much harder medium. Kind of finesse everything. Yeah, this bit I'd like to use a sanding block for as well. Actually, what I can use is... I know I kept them. Aha, perfect. I can use a nail file. These are great. They are just sanding blocks. And because this front bit doesn't have any sand on it, I can butt that against this without worrying about it taking it away. Then I've got something fairly flat. I can take along this edge without having it impact the other bit. So that's pretty cool. What's the time? Alright, got like another 10 minutes or so, then I have to run away. Oh, that's way better, holy crap. Nice. It might be hard to tell, but this top edge is now way flatter. It is hard to tell. You can kind of see on here, like it bumps a lot. On this side, considerably less now. Still not perfect, but definitely better than it was. Yeah, that's way better than it was. I like using my Dremel on fast casts, but it takes away so much material so quickly. Like, it'll be great for sizing these to actually fit against one another. That'll be perfect. But when it comes to getting in close, that's going to be done by hand, really. Because, as I'm hoping you can see, this sands down very quickly and very easily. Like, these are pretty fine sandpapers that I'm using, and it's already considerably different to how it was. Gonna need a lot more messing with yet, but it's way better than it was. Much better. How's this? Pretty okay, but it's very toasty, so I'm going to continue leaving it. I'm just going to faff with this until I need to leave, which is imminently, in fairness. So I'm not going to demold that other fast cast this morning. Just safer to leave it. So I shall. And I'll be spending a lot of time finessing these. Once I get that one out of the mold, there'll be a lot of finessing. Making everything sit properly and look how I want it to. Better than it was. But it's going to be a lot easier to see what I need to do with those edges once I have two pieces up against one another like that. And you can kind of see where it doesn't match up. Yeah, big old gap. That's probably going to be how they end up trying to match. I've got a couple of options for how I approach this, to be honest. So I'll have a think, and I'll decide eventually. I need to sand down this bit. Yeah. That feels better already. That definitely is better. My point. Around here somewhere. flatter. Still not quite. Okay, well I need to duck out annoyingly. It is what it is. I'll be back tomorrow. Probably for more of this. Amongst other things. I see that's nearly done it. Nearly. Depends how I want to connect them. I'm debating drilling a tiny hole through the middle of this. Same on the other one. Putting something through there so I know where they tie up. Because obviously they're not going to match exactly at various points. But if I can find out where they should be going, I can try and match the rest. But that is a future me problem for another point. So for now, I'm going to have to call it there. And I'll just have to come back to this tomorrow and faff with it some more. So, you know, I will catch you guys probably similar sort of time tomorrow. So, in a bit.